So, hi, my name's Roslyn. I'm part of the IUIS Education Committee, and my role in the committee is to develop the pre-courses for the IUIS Education in-person courses. And the way that we do that is by relying heavily on Immunopaedia as our platform to support this online learning. So I'm sorry I can't be there in real time because it's the middle of the night, but hopefully this recording will be okay. So first, the IUIS Education Committee, the main role of this committee is to organise courses in developing world and low and middle income countries. What we are trying to do with these courses is discuss relevant issues and problems that are important for the regions in which we hold these courses, that are really based around fundamental immunology, technologies and issues related to immunology. So this year we have three main courses. We have one in Madagascar, one in Cambodia and one in Peru. There's different themes here you can see. One is about emerging, re-emerging infectious diseases, one's specifically about arbovirus, and one's more about the interaction between the environment and the immune system. So what we do in terms of a pre-course is develop material so that the students are prepared for each of these courses where they spend time in person. So the IUIS Education Committee courses are quite different from a lot of other courses that people go to. First of all, they're in person, so we believe that having interaction between actual humans is really beneficial. For me, as someone who spends quite a lot of my nights online, being able to do something in person is really useful, and you can see how much better it is to actually be able to talk to people instead of just sort of passively watching a webinar. The faculty and students are embedded together. They live in the same accommodations, so they have their meals together, they can work together, so you can develop some really nice relationships between faculty and students, opportunities to ask questions, build some mentoring, all that sort of stuff. It's intensive teaching and participation, so again, it's not a passive form like you'd get with a webinar. Students are challenged to ask questions, answer questions, and are expected to participate fully. There's a lot of group work, which is how science works, so this is a really essential skill for students to learn. We cover a whole lot of fundamental immunology concepts, but we also spend time developing research skills and critical analysis. And so this is where our pre-course content comes in. Part of this is about building up that fundamental immunology, developing those research skills, but also making sure that students are prepared for the course, both academically as well as socially. This pre-course content is compulsory, so this is another difference with our education courses, is that we expect the students to really participate right from the beginning. So the pre-courses, what they do, they ensure the students are very prepared for the course content. So we have students who are at various levels of study or training. We want to make sure that they all have the same fundamental understanding of immunology concepts. So we sort of try and lift a bar so that everybody's starting at the same point. Content is about the immunology ideas, but also focuses on critical analysis and thinking about research questions. So it's about looking at an immunology problem, understanding the cells and molecules, but also thinking, maybe what is the best way that you would design a research project to address an unanswered question using your knowledge. So it's thinking more broadly about how immunology works and trying to prepare our students for a research career. Finally, what it does is builds the confidence in students to express their thoughts. What we really try to get across in the pre-course is that we want to know what you think and what you understand, and that you're not getting marked as yes, this is right, no, this is wrong. So the idea is that before the students come to a course where they may not know anybody, it may be their first time travelling to a conference or a workshop or a course, that they feel confident in their own abilities to understand content, to ask questions, and to express their own ideas. So we all know with science and in immunology is that there's a lot of grey areas, there's not a lot of black and white, and students need to feel really comfortable in that grey area. So the contents and assessments are designed to help the students to think about what they've read, develop their own ideas, rather than just having a textbook style recall. We do have some sort of fundamental question answers because we do need to make sure people understand the basics, but really what we're trying to do is to make sure that students understand and they can start bringing their own ideas. We have different assessments. They're called assessments. We don't really sort of score them. What we're really trying to do is get the students to think about what they've learned in the pre-course and then apply that knowledge in different ways. We try to mix it up a bit so it supports different styles of learning. People like to do different things. People understand stuff visually or prefer to summarise work for scientists or summarise work for the public. There's all sorts of things. So we have science communication exercises, writing reports or policy documents, summarising research papers, discussing limitations of techniques. So there's a whole lot of research skills in here. We also have a large bank of clinical case studies that are hosted by Immunopaedia, and so we can roll these into this pre-course too. So having those clinical case studies is a really valuable addition for a really valuable support from Immunopaedia that's incredible for these courses. Last year we introduced a equity module into our pre-course material. So there's multiple reasons for this. Equity, despite what Donald Trump thinks, is actually really, really important. This has been done in a partnership with the IUIS Gender Equity Committee, and what we do in the pre-course material is we're just encouraging students to think about concepts like bias, intersectionality, institutional racism, subconscious bias, sexism, all these sorts of things. And so what we do is we sort of provide some content for students to have a look at, different perspectives, and then a series of reflection exercises so the students can reflect on their own experiences and start thinking about, is there some bias there, what could I do, how to do this. And so this year we have the movie Picture a Scientist that we're using in the pre-course material. So we have a facilitated discussion about the movie, and the students will all watch the movie together online before they get to the course. So all of this equity work prior to the course means that as soon as the students arrive at the course, then they already know that it's going to be a diverse group of people. They've already started to think about how different people will see different problems and propose different solutions. So the idea then is it's sort of guiding this inclusive, supportive tone of the in-person courses. So the way this works, so all of this stuff is coordinated by Bon, who is a superhero in terms of Immunopaedia and making these courses work. So the first thing we do is we talk the local organising committee and the members of the education committee to develop a program. What's the focus of the course? What are the sorts of things that they want to get through? Then we draft up a pre-course where we sort of cover learning objectives, make sure we've covered the scope and the content that the students will need for the course, and think about what sort of skills we'd like the students to have. Then that also gets discussed with the local organisers in the committee, and then what we do is we come to the Immunopaedia ambassadors. So this is in red because these are the most important people because they populate this pre-course content. So this is done in conjunction with the education committee and with the faculty in the course, but it's really the Immunopaedia ambassadors that create the bulk of this content. After that, we have content review, again through the local organisers, the education committee, and then it goes live. And all of this is mediated by Bon, who coordinates all of the activities, builds the content online, and then chases all of us to make sure we do everything we said we would do. So the Immunopaedia ambassadors are key to this whole process. I've just got a picture of 3 that we're working with at the moment. There are a million more, but these are the ones that I could find pictures of, so that's why they're here. So in terms of our ambassadors, they do a lot of the heavy lifting in developing the course, so they're incredibly valuable. Because we have such diverse range of people as ambassadors, they bring new perspectives in the content, so it brings a sort of a fresh view to how we should talk about different parts of immunology and what's important. They also bring in new ideas in the assessment of learning, so they come up with ideas about maybe we could ask the students to do this or maybe that. So having that creativity and all those ideas from a whole new set of people from around the world is incredibly valuable. And so I think the Immunopaedia ambassadors are the ones that really make these courses work. In terms of what skills the ambassadors get, there's things they can write on their CV that they've been doing in terms of teaching, but I think in terms of career development, having an opportunity to develop course content and curricula, develop research skills, especially in communication and how students learn, and developing teaching skills, preparing the materials. And so I think these are really key components. So here's just an example content of a course we ran last year. So the learning objective here was to understand the extent, risks and opportunities for managing zoonotic TB. So we had the students read a paper, which is this review up here, and then rather than asking a series of questions about what were the details of what happens with TB in which cell, we asked them to identify potential research questions and research directions. So if you're a research student, read this review, you're interested in TB and zoonotic TB, what would you study? How would you do it? So you need to create a hypothesis and some research objectives, that you would use to write a grant. So here we're not asking them to write a grant, we're just asking them to come up with the idea and guiding them the way to do this. And so this is a really important way of thinking about science and thinking about immunology. What would they come up with? And then when we looked at the ideas students had, then there was a huge variety of responses here. And so that hopefully gives the students confidence that their work is and their ideas are equally valuable as everybody else's. So finally, just to summarise, we use Immunopaedia as a platform to support this online learning. This process would be impossible if we didn't have Immunopaedia there. Through Immunopaedia, we have a capacity to reach many students. All of our content is still available on Immunopaedia, which means that those students who don't go to the course, other people can have a look at their content as well. It allows us to teach concepts, but also to encourage critical thinking and research skills. And as I said, this is highly dependent on Immunopaedia for success. So both the provision of the technical online platform, the ability of someone like Bon, who's just incredible at bringing this all together, and importantly, having the Immunopaedia ambassadors who populate the content and give us new ideas. So that's my last slide. So hopefully that's helped to explain the importance of Immunopaedia in this whole process.